And at that time, I was making almost the same amount in 2 weekends as I was making the rest of the month back home after all the costs. So I was like, this is weird, but it's actually more financially viable.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Geological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. Artists know this. You have to show up. You have to show up for the work on a schedule, show up regardless of how you feel, show up as a devotion, a dare to the universe. You have to prove yourself the dutiful student. The ancient Romans used the word genius, but unlike us modern folk who imagine genius to be an innate trait, something special and uniquely ours, the ancients saw genius as a mysterious gift from the universe. It was on loan to you, a bit of the divine that chooses mortal flesh to manifest itself through. This is something anyone who's dared a worthwhile project, who's made a practice of painting or writing or dancing or creating something of value for the greater human community has discovered, there is something that at times will come through you and illuminate the work. Something beyond your usual human capabilities, even if they're tuned and trained. You may have experienced this in your clinical work from time to time. There's a presence, a kind of glow, a way the air in the room gains a texture, or your vision, your senses, perceive more than the usual portion. It's not intuition. There's something else, like when a dancer becomes the dance, or the poet who is simply taking dictation from another realm. Here's the thing. These moments, they are evoked not from intention or desire, but from the prayer and offering that is hard work, of doing your part to be the receptively empty vessel, of engaging the doing requisite for the non-doing to have a channel into this world. You could call it a muse, a spirit, a daemon, or, yes, like the Romans, the genius. I heard a podcast with singer Roseanne Cash. She talked about the absolute necessity to not just be open, but of being in service to this creative force. As she put it, if I get a snippet of a tune and I don't immediately catch it and write it down, it will quickly slip away and it'll go looking for another way into this world. And I don't want Lucinda Williams getting a hold of that. So, you have to be attentive to the whispers and the nudges. But before that, you must, as the Chinese say, 大好技术, have a firm grasp of the fundamentals of the craft. This is why it's not enough to know how to search for point functions. Why you must have real-time analog flesh and blood relationship with the channels and the points. Why you must know their character and their quirks. Learn how not just to needle with skill, but understand how each point must be approached differently. This is why it's not enough to know the symptom picture of an herbal formula, but be able to recite its ingredients like a beloved poem. It's only after you've used a formula and it's worked, and used it and it's not, and in both instances, you know why? That then the prescription knows you're trustworthy enough to tell you more. The work, it must be engaged with a willingness and tenacity that will pound your ego into dust. The work, it's a kind of purification. So when the genius has inspiration to share with you, there's a clear conduit. Expect the work to ask everything of you. It will take you into the wilderness where you'll scream and shake your fist at the very thing you were hoping to attain. Because that flow and genius, it's unattainable. And also, if it has its sights set on you, unavoidable. The question is, are you a refined enough vessel to allow it through? The work, it calls us, invites us to see what's up around the bend. And the next one, and the one after that. Before you know it, you're in new terrain. Our work as practitioners, it's fraught with opportunity, which means if you have the stomach for it, you can aim at a practice that doesn't look like any other, but it's a good fit for you. In this conversation with Irina Cividino, we pack up the acupuncture mobile and hear about what it's like to be a circuit-riding acupuncturist. One of the frustrations that I've had at times with having a practice is that it's had me tied down to one place. I couldn't imagine how to build a practice and at the same time give free rein to my wanderlust. Turns out, there's a method to the madness. It takes some preparation, a bit of savvy with social media, and the willingness to wander into places where they are darn glad to see an acupuncturist rolling in. What I loved about this conversation, it was how Irina ignored the conventional wisdom on building a practice and set out to do it her way. Made it work, and well at that. Let's get the story from her right after this. These conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. Blue Poppy, your new one-stop shop, has speedy shipping options on everything that you need for your clinic. It's Women's Health Month at Mayway Herbs. Check out their new website for learning resources on helping women with herbal medicine. Are you a creature of habit? How about making a change that helps your patients and the planet with AccuFast needles? And later in the show, raising your fees doesn't have to be a difficult process. Jane has helpful suggestions on making it easy and effective. And finally, have you considered that having a thriving, profitable practice is one of the most healing things that you can do? Julie Bear Don't Walk has, and she can help you do something about it too. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Qiological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast.
Daily habits and routines feel comforting, familiar, easy, automatic. That's the power of repetition. You've worked out the kinks and can do it with your eyes closed. But what if you shook things up? What if you ditched the old routine and tried something new? Hi, I'm John Sten. I've practiced acupuncture for over 30 years, and together with my wife Kelly, we created the world's first eco-friendly acupuncture needle. The AccuFast earth-friendly needle system cuts your packaging waste by 60 to 90%, depending upon your needle type, speeds up your needling, gives you more control, and best of all, while you're healing patients, we plant a tree for every 2 boxes your clinic uses. Thousands of acupuncturists have already made the switch. In just the last year, they've helped plant over 16,000 trees. Since we started, that number has grown to over 50,000. So break the routine. Be the change. Visit AccuFastNeedles.com. Your patients and the planet will thank you.
Picture this. Your clinic is buzzing with patients, and then you realize that you're down to your last box of needles. No need for panic, because Blue Poppy, your one-stop shop for all your acupuncture needs, they ship orders received before 3 p.m. on the same day. With a quick visit to Blue Poppy's website, you can order premium needles, herbal formulas, and that special Dr. Bob's oil that your patients love. Blue Poppy understands practitioners can't keep patients waiting. That's why they strive to get you what you need when you need it. From high-quality Chinese herbs and formulations to acupuncture supplies and clinical essentials, Blue Poppy has served practitioners for nearly 40 years with products that meet the highest of standards. Discover everything Blue Poppy has to offer by visiting www.bluepoppy.com, and don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and more.
Hi folks, I'm Yvonne Lau, president of Mayway Herbs. May is Women's Health Month, and as a women-owned and women-run business, we especially love how Chinese medicine can support wellness through every stage of a woman's life. So in this month's newsletter and podcast, we're covering topics like PMS, pregnancy, menopause, and osteoporosis. We'll share expert insights and effective treatment strategies you can put to good use in your clinic. Our Plumflower brand line includes herbal tea pills, tablets, extract granules, and organic herbs, all of which you can find on Mayway.com. and where you can also find articles, videos, and other resources to support your practice. Since 1969, Mayway has been a trusted source for high-quality herbal products. In these challenging times, please know that we remain committed to keeping our products accessible and affordable so you can take care of yourself and your patients. As always, thank you for supporting Real Chinese Medicine.
Irina Cividino. First of all, I just have to say, your name is so cool, Irina Cividino. Welcome to Geological.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm really happy to have you. You've been a listener for, I don't know, how long have you been a listener for? A while.
At least 3 years.
Yeah.
So right before I started practicing again.
Yes. And your practice is a little bit unusual than the average acupuncture practice, which is why I am delighted to have you here today. You're kind of like the Pony Express of acupuncture.
I guess so. Yeah, it's
right? Like the wandering monk of acupuncture.
Sure. Yeah, the nomadic sort of acupuncture where you...
Nomadic, yeah.
Yeah, you try to turn vacation time and travel time into your work. So it's been great.
I'm so interested in talking to you about this because I myself love to travel. And one of the things about being an acupuncturist is I feel like I get tied down to a place because you got to be there to do the acupuncture.
Right.
And so it kind of goes against my nomadic wandering predilections. But you have managed to create a practice where you get to wander around.
Yes.
Tell us about that. How did that happen?
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess where it started is a colleague of mine told me about a lady who was trying to encourage different practitioners to come to her town and offer their services, because there's a lot of northern remote communities that don't have much of anything. They don't have massage or physio, that obviously not acupuncture, but a lot of other services too. So when...
And you're in Canada.
I'm in Canada, yes. Yeah, northern.
Yeah. So for the people listening in, they're like, what do you mean you don't have people in northern United States?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, you're in Canada. That's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah. So once you hit some of the larger northern cities, north of there, it's pretty sparse. There's a lot of towns that just don't have an acupuncturist. They might have a physio, might have a massage therapist, often not a chiropractor or an acupuncturist. So, and this town that this lady was advertising for, it happened to be in, it's one of the mountainous towns that if you're from around that area, you know it's a great vacation spot or camping spot. A lot of people will go there in summer vacation for a few days to the different parks that are there. So I got thinking, well, one day when I'm established and I make enough money, I want to be able to go camping there on the weekends. So I thought maybe I can start trying it out now. And of course I was apprehensive. I didn't know if it would work out. I was afraid of showing up and not being busy. So I gave her a call and asked her the ins and outs of kind of what that looks like. And she told me about a massage and chiropractic couple who had been doing this for over a year and a half. And they would just go to, I think, 8 different communities 4 times a year. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't even know that was a thing and that was possible. And yeah, and coincidentally at that time, there was one acupuncturist going there for a couple of visits. And so I just called her up and asked, how do you figure out the software part of it and get these online bookings sorted? And she was borrowing the software, the Jane software, from the chiro and massage couple. And they would just let her use that to book for when she was in Tumbler Ridge. So I ended up calling them because I wanted to know, like, does this actually work out? Like, can you honestly just book?
Right. Is this real?
Yeah. Can you book one weekend a month and show up and be full? And the first thing he told me is he's like, it's very different than when you're in a city. If you're not there consistently enough, you won't be as busy. But when you go to remote towns, it doesn't matter how often you go, you will always be fully booked. So it's like, oh, okay. So, and at the time, I was working at a clinic that takes about 40% of your wage as the like to cover the overhead. So I wasn't really making too much.
Yeah, because overhead is big.
It is very big. We have a bunch of receptionists.
Overhead is
Yes.
big. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I was hungry to just get more clinical experience and my hope was to be able to go on a hike or maybe camp one night while I was out there and to see if I could actually make a bit more while going there for 2-3 days than what I'd make in 2 weeks at home. So it all worked out.
Right. And mix business with pleasure.
Exactly. So yeah. So the first time I went, I remember it was a couple days beforehand and I didn't have many bookings and I didn't know what was going on. But then literally I think 2 days before I got 6 calls in one day and I was only seeing 5 people a day. I just went for one weekend. So I showed up like a Friday night, worked Saturday, Sunday, drove home Sunday after I packed up. And I just took the supplies I knew I needed from home. I kept it really minimal my first couple times. I didn't take any herbs with me. And she had a massage table there. I did bring my own sheets and I just kind of gave it a go. And yeah, I was full and I knew that I should go a little more frequently to start. So I went 2 weeks later and I was full again. And then I got the idea. This couple, they had also been going to this other mountain town that was close to to a ski hill. So, and I just learned how to snowboard. So I was like, well, maybe I can go there, like snowboard till 1 p.m., go work 3 to 8 and do that for a couple days. So then.
Oh my God, that sounds great.
Yeah. It became too much in one day. So then I'd work a Friday, Saturday, snowboard, Sunday, Monday, then go home. But so then I was going 2 weekends a month, one weekend to this first town, one weekend to the other town. And I was making, at that time, I was making almost the same amount in 2 weekends as I was making the rest of the month back home after all the costs. So I was like, this is weird, but it's actually more financially viable. So
lower overhead.
Yeah.
Plenty of people. Now, okay, I got a ton of questions.
Yeah, go for it.
And first of all, I just have to tell you, I love business and I love entrepreneurial thinking. And I love that whole mindset of like looking at something and going, I think I see an opportunity here. Other people don't see it. I think I see it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy, but maybe there's something. There's something very exciting about like, oh, maybe this will work.
Yeah.
It's a little nerve-wracking, of course, at first.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also something really delicious about following that kind of a hunch. So I want to ask you, you saw some other people doing it. So a little bit of social proof there. You're not crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you might be crazy, but it might be doable. How do you at first find the people? Was it this woman who was like, hey, we need an acupuncturist, like, will someone please come see us? Or, I mean, how do you get the word out in a place where you don't live?
For booking?
Yes.
Yeah, I just use Facebook groups to advertise. So every small town, when it's a small enough town, they have 1 or 2 main Facebook groups for, whatever they want to share. And that's what this
Facebook groups
couple told me. They're like, just join the Facebook group. I didn't even have Facebook. I was really apprehensive about getting it again, but they're like, you just have to trust and just do it. And then I started creating really simple posts on Canva that I could just like upload to that page once a week, or I would usually do it a week before and then a couple days before. And then the day of, sometimes you get some cancellations. So I'd put a post of last minute cancellations and I'd always put like in bold, here's the booking website, my phone number for any questions, and just see what happens. So yeah. And in every town I go to, they all have some of them only have one Facebook group that's really active. So it makes it even easier. And this is what I found interesting is that when you're in a larger town, there can be so many groups. I've done that where I've joined 7 or 8 groups in a town and then did ads and didn't really get many bookings. But when you go to a small town, it's how a lot of the town communicates and promotes different events or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And it seems like there's another piece of the pie here, another ingredient, which is small remote towns, places that don't have.
Yes.
the kind of services that you have to offer. And so if you're willing to go up there, people are like, oh my God, the circuit rider acupuncturist is coming through. Like, cancel everything else. We're going to go get some treatment.
Yeah, sure. I like your enthusiasm about that. Yes.
Well, I mean, that's what it sounds like. There's a different sensibility when you're living in a small town. First of all, when you're in a small town, it's a different life than a big city, for sure. But remote small town, that's another layer of differentiation.
Yes. So a lot of these people have to drive an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to an acupuncturist. So all the towns I go to don't have an acupuncturist. And I did try one town that did, because I met up with an acupuncturist there who used to work. She used to work in a couple of towns I was going to. So I actually just got in touch with her because I was like, hey, can you let all your former patients from however long ago know that I'm coming to town and I'll be available to give treatments? And she told me, why don't you start up here? Because most of us have a month or 6 week wait list. So I did try that in a town that had acupuncturists, but it's, again, the Facebook group thing doesn't work so well. And when you have it at your fingertips and you can just book whenever you want, people take it for granted. So I tried that out, I think 3 or 4 visits. And then I was like, it's not worth the extra drive and time and rent and stuff. So, yeah.
Wow. So there's a particular kind of town that is your niche for the kind of way that you like to work.
Yeah. Yep. Small towns. And coincidentally, all of these towns are in the Rocky Mountains, and that's the main mountain range in Canada. And I've always loved the mountains since I went to school. And there's always so much hiking to do there and camping. And beautiful lakes.
And snowboarding.
Snowboarding just at 1 or 2. So yeah, so that was part of it too. When I moved from that first home location, we moved to another town. That's what pushed me to start going to more towns, because I had to make a choice. Do I get another part-time job I'm not as passionate about, or do I put like my whole heart into acupuncture? And all of a sudden, those 2 towns I was going to were 6 to 7 hours away. So I just added more locations that were in the mountains. And I went back to my old home clinic, like just would go there for 2 days on the way to the Tumbler Ridge location. And then I kept going, and I just did a whole circuit all the way back to my old town, or to my new home. And so that's when I ended up going to, was it like 8 locations in a trip? Maybe it was 7.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So first of all, what you just said about, do I get this part-time job, something I'm not that interested in, or do I follow this thing that my heart is in? That, I mean, my suspicion is people listening to this conversation, they're like, oh yeah, I want to follow my heart into this. Most of us followed our hearts into the medicine, but it also takes a certain kind of courage to follow through.
Yes.
On something that you haven't done and you don't know if it's going to work. Where did that come from?
Well, the first 2 locations, I had assurance that, it'll probably work out. So I was like, okay, I'll give her. And then I had enough confidence after going to those 2 places that I was like, I think it'll work out in these other locations. So I always started by calling a clinic in that town, usually a massage therapy or physio clinic, asking if they had an extra room I could use for just a couple days. And the first time you just had to give it a shot. You just had to show up and see what would happen. And I was still full in 2 more of those locations. One of them was a bit slower. It took 2 or 3 trips, and I actually switched which clinic I was working in. There's another one that had a lot better like community advertising. Like the owner of that clinic would really get word out quickly. So then I was fully booked there as well. And in one of the towns, I had a couple locals that were just from an hour away, and they're like, hey, can you come to our town as well? And I was already trying to set up a spot there, but when I made a few calls, I just couldn't find anything. So I think I had to call 7 or 8 different places until I found something that worked, that I could, again, just rent for 1 day at a time for the days that I'm there. So you see it work out enough times, you're willing to kind of just go for it. And trust that it'll work out. And again, if it doesn't, it's okay. You can just stop going and then spend maybe more time in another location. So some of these locations I would start going for a few more days to 3 days instead of 2. So I started doing that as well. If it's busier and it makes more sense to be here longer, then I'll do that.
Yeah. So you had a little bit of success.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. Like, oh, look, this works. This is it, like proof of concept. Yes, this is doable.
Yes.
And then you start like, well, how about this? How about this little town? Yeah, that worked out well. You try this other little town. Maybe a different location, right? Some towns don't work, some do. And then you build your marketing strategy, the Facebook group. Wow, that's, it's funny. I remember when I first got here to St. Louis, it's a while ago now. And I remember doing some ads on Facebook. Like it's targeted and it's like, yeah, I'm going to try this and see if it works. I never, ever, never got anyone coming to see me from Facebook, ever, never. It just didn't work for whatever reason. I don't know. Some people it does work. And maybe because of the town that I live in, and just kind of the vibe and the way people use Facebook and all that. It sounds like there's something about these little towns. They're very cohesive in a way. And they rely on that Facebook. So Facebook means something different in a smaller town than in a bigger one.
Yes. And
then it sounds like you also would reach out to people that were there and have them help you to market this.
It would usually start with just the clinic owner. The first time I'd show up, I'd be like, hey, I might just need your help to fully book this first time. If you can just let some of your patients know that you think might benefit. And I would take the time to talk about it if they, didn't know very much about how I could help. I'd always offer a treatment to the owners of the clinic too, just so that they know kind of what I do, and to the practitioners in the clinic. So that way they can experience what I'm doing and they're more likely to refer. And usually after the first visit, I would get enough word of mouth referrals or from the Facebook page. So I wouldn't really rely on the clinic owners helping me out much. And I wouldn't ask my patients to find more people for me. It would just be the word of mouth thing. So, yeah.
That is everybody's dream practice.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
How long did it take you to get this thing kind of up and running and rolling the way that it is right now?
Right now, it's been just over 2 years since that first trip I took, October 2 years ago. And when I started doing the full-time circuit thing, that is like a year and a half ago. That was in June. And as I got busier, we moved again a third time. And as I got busier in this location, which is my forever home now, I don't plan on ever moving again. I've slowly started just going out a bit less. So I was doing 12 trips a year, 10 to 12 days every month, and now just 6 times a year. So, but it took, I guess it went really well from the very beginning. So
it sounds like it.
It didn't take too much time to, I guess, get established. Part of what took some time was figuring out, like, what do I need to bring with me? What else should I bring with me? Should I have a better mattress in the back of the car for camping? Or maybe I should find a better system for carrying all my supplies instead of this flimsy, ugly trolley thing I was using. So,
well, it sounds like in the beginning, you were giving it a try.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't sure how it was going to go. I'll grab a couple of pocketfuls of needles and some sheets, right? I mean, you didn't need much to get it off the ground and give it a trial run.
Yeah.
As you built it up, now I need to make sure I've got supplies and this and that. So what does a traveling kit look like for circuit riders such as yourself? I mean, do you have like a van? Do you have a car?
Yeah. So
I bet you got chains for that car because you're going through the mountains.
Winter studded tires. Yep. And all-wheel drive SUV. So if you're dealing with winter conditions, then you've got to have those two things because you really don't know what the conditions are going to be like when you head on the road. Now I always travel daylight. So I never leave before the sun's up or try to travel too late at night just for that safety reason. And I took out the back 2 seats of the SUV, and I've got just like a camping mattress thing on the one side, and the other side is where all my tools fit. So it's like a stackable, it was a larger stackable kit. It's what tradesmen use to carry their tools with them when they're on the road. So it's got these wheels at the bottom, and it looks like a trolley that stacks.
Oh, yeah, like a mechanic's chest.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are awesome. Those are like such cool tools.
Yeah. So
they got the glidey drawers on them, and they're super solid.
Yes. And that's what I invested in when I started going like more full time. So I've got 2 of those big bins. One's just full of cups. The other one's full of all my sheets and face cloths and all those sheet-like things. And then the massage table with the table heater, table protector, and a couple pillows. And then those stackable bins, one would be all the stuff I would draw from right away, all of my needle stuff. And then I'd have like 3 or 4 of all my extra acupuncture stuff. So one would be all my topicals, like Evil Bone Water and Spring Wind stuff. And I'd have, it's amazing.
Love that Evil Bone Water. Patients love it too, don't they? They're like, what? Evil Bone Water?
Yeah, it's great. I've had a few patients that are like, that stuff really works. Yeah, and after I listened to the episode where you interviewed him, I started using it on my pets when they have little injuries, and they don't like it when it first goes on, but I just trust that stuff will work. So it's really good stuff.
This episode is brought to you by Jane, the clinic management software that honestly just makes running a practice easier. Let's dive into something that's never easy, but sometimes necessary. Raising your fees. It can feel awkward, right? But here's a tip that can really help. Consider offering flexibility to your patients as you introduce the change. When patients face new fees, it's natural for them to feel uncertain or concerned. That's where flexibility can really make a difference. Offering options like a phased increase, suggesting a payment plan, or even taking a moment to talk things through can help to ease the transition. These thoughtful gestures show your patients that you're listening and care about them, which strengthens the trust you've worked so hard to build. If you're looking for more ideas on how to navigate these kinds of changes, head to frontdesk.jane.app and check out the article, How to Tell Clients You're Raising Your Fees. One last thing, if you're ready to give Jane a try, you can use the code CHIOLOGICAL for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. There's a way that I use it sometimes. This is going to sound silly, but it's really true. I sometimes use it as room freshener.
Oh, cool.
Like especially if someone like they've had some body odor or they wore perfume or something, and you got another person coming in, the Evil Bone Water, just like a little spritz in the room, because it's so fragrant and dispersing, it just makes the room really fresh. It's really nice.
Yeah, that's genius. I've got an odor neutralizer thing I take with me too. And then I did start something when I started traveling. My thought was, okay, these people can't get treatments often. So I want to be able to give them sample packs of when I give them some feedback of something they can apply and start doing, I want to give them these little samples. So I would put the Evil Bone Water in like a 10 ml sample. And if that person, had pain, I'd give them one. And I tried the 37 salve and something called Wentong Sao. And I'd give the moxa adhesives and teach them how to do it. So they could do moxa like 6 times on a few points. So that was one of my drawers, was all this sample stuff. And I've condensed that now because you know how it is where a lot of the time patients don't remember or try what you suggest. And I wouldn't hand it out as often as I thought I would. But at first that was part of my brand, was like, okay, I want to educate and I want to help these people, like empower them to better take care of themselves. So when I'm not there, they can still do something that's going to help. And that brings me to herbs. So we can only get, I think it's KPC or is it Bima? One of the two. You can order those or you can get golden flower. So all the herbs I buy are just golden flower because it's better compliance. And since I don't have a dispensary and there isn't any dispensary close to these people, the closest dispensary to me is like 4-hour drive away. I just bring the most common formulas that I give out with me as well. So some large bottles, small bottles, and take those herbs on the road as well. So I think that, and a TDP lamp. You have to have one of those.
Now, does it have to be TDP or just like some kind of heat lamp? I mean, are you...
I guess it could be any heat lamp. I thought those were the only ones acupuncturists use. So,
well, I know a lot of us do. And, there's something about the kind of wavelength of heat that comes off of it. I'm actually not sure if it really does or if any of that stuff is true. But here's what I know. People love having their feet warm.
Yes, exactly. That's what I use it for. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, me too. And so, this may make me sound like a heretic, but recently my wife was given like one of these red bulb things from a friend of hers. And I've just been using that lately because it makes their feet warm and it makes their feet warm immediately. And it's not on one of those terrible bases that the TDP lamps are always on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not fun carrying that thing around.
No, it's not.
It's a pain. It's a pain having to disassemble it every time I pack up and go.
Yeah. There might be other alternatives, but you like making sure their feet are warm. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. One trip I forgot it, and
you didn't hear the end of it.
I hate it when I forget that thing. Well, it's just I almost apologize to my patients. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the lamp. Your feet won't be toasty warm. So I love that thing.
Yeah. So you're not traveling as much, but you're still, this is part of the way that you do your livelihood. You spend some time at home and then you go out and you ride the circuit.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What do you love about riding the circuit?
Well, I love the locations, of course, and the nature, and there's no end to the number of hikes you can go on. The main reason I love it so much is the people you'll meet. Every town has its own little culture and sort of, I guess, vibe, feel to it. And everyone has a different kind of history of how they got to be there and why they're there. And people are so kind, especially when you're coming to their town to offer them services so they don't have to travel. I've been so surprised at how warm and welcoming everyone's been. And the gratitude is actually what really kept me going. Was so many people would just be so grateful for the chance to have these services at their town. And that's when I realized, this is something that way more of us need to do, because people need it. They need access to it. And I just don't think enough people think it's possible to do this kind of work, to just travel and pack up and go. So that's really when I started, and I was doing so much more when I was gone 200 days of the year, my first full year. It was pretty insane.
Wow.
But I really wanted to be there to offer what I could. So, and to this day, that's why I don't really want to do any less than what I'm doing now, because they all really appreciate it. And it means so much to them that it's hard to think of just being like, hey, sorry, I'm busy enough at home. I'm not going to come anymore. So I still, am finding a way to make it work with a bit of better life balance. So it's that gratitude that it's been really amazing.
Wow. I'm listening to you talk about it, and I can really hear the joy that you get from being able to help people in places that are far away for them. I mean, it's far for you, but you can make it workable, and you like to travel. So there's that piece too. But that part about being able to serve a population and make a difference, go somewhere and make a difference because you're there. I know that when I first came to St. Louis, which was a surprise to me because I grew up here and I never planned to come back. But the world is curious in what it gives you sometimes. And one of the things that I appreciate about coming here was there weren't many acupuncturists. Okay, fine. It means it's not hard to build a practice, but the thing that wasn't the thing that drew me. The thing that drew me was I can make a bigger impact here in St. Louis than I can make in Seattle, where I used to live.
Right.
Because there's just not many of us that do it here. There's a screaming need for it, and it makes a difference when you're in a community that needs what you have. And that, I mean, I know for myself too, deep sense of satisfaction in terms of my work makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it made a good livelihood. That's great. But my work made a difference. And that's so important, I think, for so many of us.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, once I worked through all the, anxiety of starting up and practicing this job, it's just so much fun and it's so rewarding. And I always learn something every day. And I know I'm making a difference every day. So it doesn't matter where I'm at when I step into the treatment room. If I'm a little, tired or concerned about some other thing, halfway through that day, I always feel so full again.
Yeah.
And really feel like I think that's something that's very special about what we do, is that we make a difference with every single person we work with. So
we have the opportunity.
It's so rewarding, so fulfilling.
Yeah. What were you anxious about when you were first beginning?
That I wouldn't get good enough clinical results and people wouldn't keep coming back, and that I wouldn't make enough money to live off of to do this full time. Yeah.
That sounds like a beginning acupuncturist to me.
Exactly. Yep. And your podcast taught me that you just gotta keep going. Like, I think the first 2 years are hard for anyone. It doesn't matter if you've got the perfect clinic opportunity and you're getting all these referrals from other practitioners, or you're the only one in your town and you can work out of your suite in your home, so you have less overhead. It's always hard those first 2 years to figure it out. So I remember when it started to shift and I suddenly started to feel excited going to work instead of like, oh God, I wonder if it helped, or if. And what I started to notice was I would prepare, I'd prepare my charts before doing a follow-up and think about what I would do if that concern was what we would still focus on. And it happened more and more that it would just get better and we would move to something else completely different. So I stopped prepping as much as I used to. And one other neat thing about the travel work, what it taught me was that you can get immediate results. And I was taught in school, if someone's had something for 5 or 10 years, expect them to have to come 5 to 10 times every week to get better. But I started seeing some people after one treatment, like their shoulder pain might be significantly improved for 3 to 4 weeks, like right up until the time I almost come back. And that's also part of what kept me going, because people were getting better, even when I wasn't seeing them super consistently. And there's some people where...
Yeah. Okay.
For sure, they need more treatments and they would benefit from like bi-weekly for a few months. But I was getting enough feedback that even one session would make a difference, that I was like, well, I have no excuse not to keep going.
So what do you attribute that to? I mean, I remember the same sort of thing, like, well, you might need 10 treatments to notice something. In school, what I found out when I started practicing was people give you 3 chances, maybe.
Yeah. Still kind of goes that way. I have 2 or 3 chances usually. And now I just tell people, give it till your 4th session before you write this off. Because by the 4th session, there'll be some sort of cumulative benefit that you should start seeing. And that will tell you if it's worth it for you. So again, after I listened to a few of the gua sha episodes that you had on your podcast, I really started doing that. Applied channel theory is something I got really nerdy about back in 2017. So when I started practicing again, I was like, I'm just going to palpate every single patient. And sure, it was overwhelming at first, but I find putting my hands on the body and getting information from what their body's telling me would make it a lot easier to come up with like a diagnosis and treatment plan. And it would make it a lot easier if that treatment didn't help, how to navigate where to go from there. And so what I started doing is, if I'd find changes on, say, Tai and Yongming, then I might do more gua sha and cupping on that channel as well, if it was excess. And I don't know about you and what it's like down there, but up here, there's so much excess blood stasis, dampness, chi stagnation. I don't actually see that much deficiency in people unless they're like, it's a dual excess deficient thing or they're much older. So gua sha cupping works really well for any excess presentation plus the acupuncture. And I think that's a big part of why I started getting changes, because I would just see crazy crazy results where I'm like, how, like one guy had 20 years of knee pain and he was taking like extra strength Tylenol like 3 times a day. I gave him 2 treatments. Sure, I did some bloodletting as well, cupping, gua sha, acupuncture, and it was remarkably better after 2 sessions. So yeah, just kind of trust what I'm doing, and I keep experimenting with that, and it's going really well.
Yeah. Trust what you're doing, study some things and study them deep.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Applied channel theory is fabulous for that. Oh my gosh. You know, I find especially if I can't figure it out with my head, I'm not that great with like a mental differential diagnosis.
Yeah.
It really helps to put my hands on people.
Yes.
And notice things like, oh my God, this is like I press into the gallbladder channel on the leg and they're jumping off the table. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We need to focus on this to some degree, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And
then you know what to do.
Exactly. And the cool thing is I would use what I feel to help them understand what's going on in their body a bit and to explain if changes are happening that they might not be noticing a lot. Like most of the time, there'll be 3 or 4 symptoms that start shifting right away. But when the tenderness from palpating goes down a whole lot, that's a key finding that tells you there's less of that stagnation in the channels. So I can say, well, it's less tender. So that means your body is functioning better. The fluid physiology is like improving in your system. So it's only a matter of time before you start feeling better. So that I think really helped improve how I would communicate with patients. And that helped my confidence go up a lot. So instead of spending time on doubting or wondering if things would work out, I would just keep being me and explaining what felt right at the time. And yeah.
You know, I think it's helpful. I don't know about doubt, maybe doubt, question. I think it's helpful to question, are we being effective? Is what I'm doing being effective? I think it's worthwhile to question it.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you got to pay attention.
Yes.
You got to pay attention to reality. And when you're doing that, I think treatments become better because we're not coming up with an idea in our head. We're actually communicating deeply in a very sensate level with our patients and finding things out. It's like it's here in the physiology.
Yes.
You can feel that knot, at lung 6.
Mm-hmm. All the time at lung 6. Almost every person.
All the time, often at lung 6. Yeah. So it's it's a thing. So that's fabulous that you were able to work in the way that you've worked. You've been able to create this clinic that lets you ride a circuit that you enjoy, and it makes you focus your attention. It sounds like in a very unique way that helped you to get better at your craft quickly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think, I don't know if it was the traveling that helped me get better at my craft. It was just doing it more and more that got better. But I think what traveling did is it helped me more so trust the process. Like you learn to trust the medicine, trust what you're doing, and trust their innate ability to heal, because I was seeing these good results. So then it made it a lot easier to not get too heady about it and just show up, do what you do, and trust in the process and move on, sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's what it taught me. Yeah.
And you are literally moving on. You are literally moving on to the next town. Now, help me understand how this circuit went, because it sounds like you would go out for like a week or 2 or more. So are you staying in hotels? Are you camping? Are you living out of your car? Living under a bridge? I mean, what are you doing? What's it look like?
Yeah. So, I guess when I was doing the full trip, I guess it was 7 stops and then 8. It would take about 20 days. So I'd always only work 2 days in each location, maybe 3. And I would try to work 2 locations back to back. So 4 days of work and then a day off, and then 4 days of work, day off, 4 days of work, day off. So I would show up the night before the day of, unload, do a full day of work, and then go to my accommodations, return back to work, load up, and I'd either be driving that night or the next day to the next location. That day off, I would always carve out some time to go for a hike. And repeat, and I'd always try to go on a different hike each time. And if I was camping, a different camping spot. It's not super warm here for half the year, so you can only really go camping end of May, June, July, August, and then end of September it's too cold. So the first few times I went, did the full thing, it was in the summer. So I met enough locals and was resourceful enough that I was able to find affordable accommodations. So I've never had to stay in a hotel once. And that was definitely a big deal, because hotel costs
that would change your bottom line.
Be a bit, yeah, exactly. So I just feel like I've been really fortunate with how that all worked out. And that's why I knew it was wise to start in the summer, because I did camp out 3-4 days each trip. But then by the time it got colder, I was able to find someone to stay with.
Oh my goodness. Facebook groups, getting friendly with the locals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like there's this whole ecosystem that you learn to inhabit.
Yeah.
While doing this.
Yeah, I guess so.
Do you know anybody else who's doing this with acupuncture?
Yeah, with acupuncture, no. I know that chiro massage couple, they stopped doing what they were doing. And yeah, there's not anyone else I know of right now. There's, from where I live, I already know two or three different routes someone could take pretty easily, and just in other directions. So at first, actually, before I started going the way I am now, I was trying to line up going with this couple to First Nations communities in northern BC. But First Nations communities are very slow to respond and sometimes finalize things. So I gave it 2 months to try to reach out and get an affirmative, yes, we want you to show up, but it just didn't work out. So, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for other people to start doing this. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be 7 different places. It could be what I started with, go to a town that's 2 hours away from you 1 weekend a month sort of thing. Or even better, if it's a tourist location or somewhere that you want to explore and go backcountry anyway, then turn it into a work trip. So yeah, I hope there'll be more people doing this. And that's a big part of the reason why I was excited when you asked if I'd come on the podcast, because I'm hoping that this will get new practitioners, new grads really thinking about a different model that they could start and try that might really help them get over that hump of, getting a bit more experience, feeling less new. So hopefully more and more people will consider this, because I know that, for example, I know nurses will do this, that they'll get contracts where they go to a town for 3-4 months, then they go back home.
Travel nurses.
Yeah, there's travel nurses.
They make good money too.
They do, yeah. So I'm sure that there's a lot more that could be done with any kind of practitioner, not just acupuncture, but chiro massage and others. So, and it'd be easier if you were the other type of practitioner, because you don't have all the tools we have. It's just, you can get away with just a table if you're a massage therapist or a chiropractor or physio, I think.
Having a thriving, profitable practice is one of the most healing things you can do as a healthcare practitioner, because a robust business is the ultimate expression of vital qi, and that's the heart of our medicine. I'm Julie Bairdontlock, and I help practitioners grow nourishing, profitable, authentic businesses that embody the generative cycle of Chinese medicine. This isn't about all yang all the time. It's about expanding your own internal capacity, growing collaborative relationships with your patients for ethical patient retention, and marketing as an extension of this medicine, not a necessary evil. You already know that everything is connected in your patients' lives and bodies. The same is true for your business. When we align your systems, your schedule, your pricing, and your offerings with you, we create flow, which means more spaciousness, more impact, and more joy. When you are in the flow, fully resourced in terms of qi, time, and money, your business becomes a source of healing, not just for your patients, but for you. Let's grow something rooted, radiant, and real. Visit lifeflowconsulting.com to learn more.
Well, at the same time, the tools of being an acupuncturist, I mean, it's more than just your hands, but it'll fit into a couple of boxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it'll fit into a couple of really nice mechanics chests,
Yes.
which are cool to have anyway. That just makes you really kind of an awesome character to have one of those, like working class acupuncture,
Yeah.
And the thing that you say about it's an opportunity to like work your craft, go places and work your craft. Yeah. The thought about being in a place where you're not coming back for another maybe 3 weeks or 4, I think that changes. I'm just imagining myself into it. I think it changes how I would work to some degree. Because if I know I'm going to be able to see someone next week, I think I would treat differently than if I'm not going to see someone for a month.
Or 2. Now, sometimes it's 2-3 months between when I see people.
Right. So there's that. But again, back to the idea of tools and things to take. Look, table, needles, cups. It's still not a giant amount of materials. It's pretty simple when you come right down to it. A couple of gua sha bonds and some oils and lotions.
Yes. And food. You gotta pre-pack some good food meals because you don't have time to cook much when you're on the road.
Oh, okay. So tell me about eating on the road. That's a good point.
It's my least favorite part of the trip is that.
Yeah. Do you get tired of Tim Hortons?
I never go to. I try not to eat out. That's the thing. I freeze one meal of everything I make the 2 months before.
Oh, wow.
So that way when I'm on the road, I take a plug-in cooler I can plug into my car and to a outlet. And I pack like 21 frozen meals, something like that.
Oh, my goodness.
And I take them out 2 days before. And so I'll usually eat out once in each town, but usually at, a good restaurant or some locations have amazing restaurants, other places not so much. So I'll treat myself to a meal here and there, but I've never had to go to a fast food joint, I don't think. Maybe like A&W once or twice. But that's my least favorite part is thinking about the food.
Yeah. Wow, but you're really, I'm very impressed here. When you got a clinic in just one place like I do, like many of us do, you're set up, you got your thing, you go, blah, blah, blah. You go home, you got a kitchen, you open up the big box that's got food in it.
Yeah.
There's your life. But here you are, you're on the road. There's a lot of thought and planning that goes into this.
Yeah. You have to confirm your clinic dates and who you're staying with in advance. Be like, am I still good to stay with you these days? Your food and pack your car and then clothes and stuff, kind of like a suitcase, like as if you're traveling. So
yeah. So have you always been a kind of detailed planning kind of person, or you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's been in my favor. I've always been probably too organized.
Okay.
For most of my life, really good at that part of it.
Yeah, because I can imagine people that are less organized. You get out onto the road and you see how disheveled you actually are.
Yeah, I have a system too. Like I have a list of, all the things I take with me, and I try to keep as much of what I need when I travel in the car and don't take it out. And the travel stuff that I've used up, I restock all the acupuncture supplies. I restock them as soon as I get home, so it's done. So I just have to load up and go. And I take it out of the car, throw it in the basement, but I always put it together in the exact same spots. So when I load up and go, I don't have to wonder, oh, am I forgetting something?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Do you use checklists and all that kind of thing too to help you stay organized?
I don't need a checklist so much. Maybe for the things I forget a lot, just a couple things, but most of it's just done and taken care of. I just load the bins and go. So, and I do a quick once over, and everything that I put in the car has its place too, so it's easy to spot if something's missing.
Yeah. So good work habits, good organization habits is what you rely on for this.
Yeah, and I've just been refining it since day one for over 2 years ago. So, even stuff like taking an electroacupuncture machine, I still take it with me. I barely use it, but I don't forget it because I keep it in the same place. So just slowly, and if there's things that I do forget or more apt to forget, that's what I put on the list. So, yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is one of the more surprising things that you've discovered about working this way?
Well, I was very surprised to be busy. I had no idea. I wish I thought of this when I graduated. I would have started doing that because I didn't know where I wanted to live. And that's part of why I stopped practicing and took some time off, was because I was like, well, I have to know where I want to live or else I won't be busy. I have to be at a clinic and show up there all the time. So if I knew about that I could be busy just heading out there my first trip, I would have just done this in 2017. And I would have used those locations. I would have planned my circuit around locations I was considering living in, and I would have used it as a way to explore like different ideal locations and then help make a choice. Because even through this work, if I knew what I knew about them now, I could have lived in some of these areas. I do really like Tumbler Ridge, and I love the Robson Valley. It reminds me of the Kootenays where I went to school. It's like a little gem that I think a lot of people don't know about. And if I wasn't with my partner and established where I am now, and if I had never met him, then I probably would have moved somewhere like that. So that surprised me. I think that all the little surprises along the way are also really special, like the conversations you have that you'd never think you would have. I've met some people where it's like their family and their ancestry that settled that land like 150 years ago. There's mountains named after some of their family members, sort of thing. So the conversations that you have and the things you learn about the towns you're in, it's so interesting. And also that some towns have certain palpable findings that show up a lot. Like, it's true where people who are more sedentary and don't move enough, they get a lot more of those nodules and excess findings on channels. And then this one town where it's an outdoor enthusiast town, some people just have such clear channels, like they're 50 years old and there's nothing. It's just so healthy. So that's also surprised me, that some little communities will have different, almost like channel findings or consistencies in channel findings. So
that is so interesting, and it completely fits with what we know about Chinese medicine, that place and environment has a big impact, right? Dry places are different than wet places. And, people will be prone to issues of dampness where it's wet and dryness where it's dry. And, or people that maybe they're too wet, they live in a dry environment. They're actually pretty good because the environment supports their internal excess or helps to reduce it. It's so cool hearing about different towns. They got a character. The people have a character. You can notice it with palpation in their channels. That totally makes sense. And I love that you've been able to travel and have this experience. So it's not just this theory. Oh, here's a theory, and it makes sense. And of course we say it's true, but you've actually been to different towns where the findings were clearly different based on the character of the town. That'll make you a better practitioner for sure. Just noticing that kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's also just helped, really understand and know the importance of those Yongsheng 5 principles and when to accentuate that with certain people. Like, you don't move very much, do you? Like, okay, you need to work on that. Or you're really stressed, aren't you? Okay, I know you don't think you're stressed, but you're really stressed. You need to work on that. So it helps with, knowing who to give certain feedback to as well.
Yeah. I'm thinking here, you're up in Canada. I don't know the geography real well, but I get it that remote towns in Canada are remote.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much in the United States.
I'm not sure.
Maybe certain states more so than others. I'm just wondering about how people might want to think about putting something like this together, if they live here in the States, or maybe they live in Europe or something.
Yeah.
And they want to travel. Again, it sounds like the small remoteness is a key factor, or are there other factors that might make this work?
Yeah, I think if there's towns and they're not too far away, like if they're 45 minutes to an hour away, then it would probably still work. If it's so close that someone's willing to take the 20-minute drive into town, to the city, then it probably won't work as well. But if you're cutting that extra time out for people having to commute, then it probably will. And I think you've said a few times it's a lot less busy in the Mideast. So there's probably more opportunity for that than if you're, in Washington or California or Oregon. So I think you just have to find a few towns that are like about an hour apart, and each of them are at least an hour from the big city, and you could have a good go of it. And if there isn't an acupuncturist, or if they're fully booked and they're willing to collaborate. And what I've learned is, like, I think a lot of acupuncturists feel like they have to compete with each other. There's this weird feeling amongst acupuncturists sometimes. I don't feel like we come together and support each other as much as some people in other professions do, but I feel like there's so much room for all of us. Like, all of us can be very successful, that I'm sure if there's, one practitioner in this town, they were fully booked and they needed help, you could just ask them if you could rent a room for a day or two and help with their overflow, or help with their patients that need more consistent care sort of thing. Like, they need 4 treatments a month, so you could see them once or twice of that month. So yeah, as long as there's, I guess, a sort of demand. And one thing you can do in those towns is you can join that Facebook group and do a shout out, and you can just like make a post and say, who would be interested in this if I were to come for a couple days? Because that's what this couple that I talked to had done before they started going.
Oh, you could do some market research that way.
You could. Yeah. I never did. I just showed up because there's enough in it for me that I was like, oh, if it's not super successful, I still get to snowboard or go for a hike or whatever. So that's an option as well. And yeah, I think that's the key. You just have to find towns that don't have an acupuncturist, or they need more help. And
they're at least an hour away from a major city.
Yeah, because some of the towns, most of the towns, they're an hour and a half or 2 hours away from a city that has acupuncturists. Yeah. But less than that's okay. Even an hour, not having to commute an hour is a big deal for someone, right? An hour there and back.
Yeah, that seems so true. I'm just thinking about, I'm busy in my one location, and I've got a podcast, so traveling would be, I don't have time to travel right now.
Yeah, it's a lot to take on when you start doing it.
Yeah, when you got a lot going on. But I'm just thinking of somebody just here in the Missouri area near where I live. Yeah, there's all kinds of little small towns, an hour and a half out of here. Some in some really beautiful country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like down in the Mark Twain Forest. And there's some beautiful, beautiful streams in the southern part of the state here that are they're crystal clear and gorgeous. And they're just these dinky little towns.
Yeah. And you don't need many people, right? 12 people is 2 days of work. Or, if you want to see more, you can, but it's...
And then you go float for a day.
Yeah. Or in the evening or something. And you don't have to work out of a clinic. Like any community service center that has like a room available. So like one of the locations I work at is a small church, and you can check libraries, rec centers, if there's like a community center or like a hall. And sometimes like a couple, I think one of the locations is in someone's living room. And of course, that situation, you build that rapport and you build that connection over time. Like I got that referral. I had to switch locations in a town once. And so I asked a couple people I'd been working with for over a year, and they asked people that they knew. And one person was like, yeah, she can set up here, no problem. And she was a lady that everyone in town knew and really trusted, and is really wonderful human. So that it's going to be okay. I wouldn't recommend doing that if it's just some stranger and you don't know if they're safe, Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure you have to vet a location like that. But it sounds like you get that opportunity because you're able to connect with people in a different way.
Yeah.
What else would people need to know about this if they wanted to give it a try?
What else would they need to know? You have to use Jane's software.
Why Jane?
Because it's the only one I know of where you can have multiple locations right from the booking webpage. So that was also another really easy way for people to book online. I knew that from the beginning was I have to make it easy for these people I've never met to just book themselves in. So I have like all the locations straight from the link. And then it's easy to control your schedule and change it and see it quickly as well. So you're not spending time fiddling, like, doing the old paper method of, or if, at a clinic, if they had a piece of paper where they wrote your patients booked in, it's just too messy, too much chance for error. So.
Yep, for sure.
And the wait list thing helps a lot too. Sometimes I'll have patients that are like, I can't come this time, but can you let me know next time you come? And I'm thinking, well, that's 5 months away. So, and Jay and I can add them to the wait list. Okay, it's done. Now I know to call them a week before. So Jane's essential.
And Facebook is.
And Facebook. I mean, I guess the obvious one is choose places you really want to go. Don't just go because you're like, it might be busy, because you want to get some fun out of it too. It's more difficult to manage if you have, I don't know if it'd be doable for people with kids, be difficult. And if you have a partner, you don't want to be gone too much. So me traveling put a strain on our relationship for a couple of years. It was a bit much. Even leaving, like, last year was about 130 days on the road. That was still a bit too much. This year it's doable because I'm home for 2 months and then I'm gone for 10 days. So, what else? It's tiring. They're full days. I always feel very inspired, similar to listening to your podcast. I feel so inspired at the end of a trip or when I'm on my way home or hitting the road. I'm like, woohoo, here I go. So you get so much out of it that the long days don't bother me so much, but there are days where it's like I leave accommodations at 8:30 and I get back at 9 or 10 p.m. because I want to make sure all my charting's done and that I have everything prepped for the next day. So it's not easy. It's not like you travel and you only work 4 hours and make the same income. You have to try to see 6 to 7 people a day to make it worth it. And the cost, I guess I would say, is approximately 40% of your wage. So if you work in a clinic, you give away 40% to overhead, but that 40% covers your food, your gas, your auto expenses, accommodations, and supplies. So, yeah.
It's another kind overhead. That's called overhead.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's still more viable than that model of big clinic. So.
And especially if you like to travel and you want to go hiking and you got a bit of wanderlust.
Yeah.
If you got a bit of wanderlust, here's where you can have your wanderlust and be busy in clinic and meet all kinds of interesting people.
Yes. And I think it would be really cool for someone who, especially if they're solo and they're not super interested in being tied down or being in a relationship, even if you work this and you say you work 20 or 25 days, you could take a month to just go internationally and like do something fun, because you should be able to make enough money in that time that you could just go travel after somewhere warm and spectacular. So, yeah.
And maybe do some acupuncture while you're at it.
Yeah. Yep.
Because you know how to work remotely. You know how to work on the go.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm so inspired. I love acupuncture, obviously. I've been doing it a while and I get to talk to people every week about it because I love it so much. And I love hearing how people come up with different ideas and things. And the innovation that you brought to this, that you had kind of a hunch. You had, I don't know about vision, but it's like you saw something and you thought, maybe I could do that. I think that's such a helpful attitude.
Yes. You have to be open to different possibilities.
Absolutely.
And be willing to try and fail. You'll still learn something about what you're doing and yourself in the process.
Failure is such a big thing, I mean, nobody likes to fail. And there's always some sort of admonishment that goes with, well, they failed, or the things that you say to yourself when something doesn't work out. That's even worse. But I don't know of any way of getting traction going forward without finding out a whole lot about what doesn't work. It's really, really helpful because you know not to go do that again, or you know how to work around it, where you learn something, and so the next time you avoid that problem. I don't think it's possible to succeed without a ton of failure.
I completely agree. Yeah. And I now welcome it, and it's so much fun because
you welcome it.
Yes, it shows you where you have yet to grow. And again, your business podcast episodes, I listened to that enough, and I listened to the AcuSprout podcast, and that showed me that it's like you're going to fumble along the way for the first few years. Doesn't matter what you do. You're going to try something that's going to work at some point and then it won't later, and it's okay. And you just keep doing it, because I was surprised at what it showed me trying to run a business. All the places I would shy away from or be afraid of trying or doing differently. And now it just shows me like essentially where I have the biggest opportunity to grow. So it's fun now.
It's fun now. The stuff that you used to avoid and hope you didn't have to focus on too much, now you take it on and it's fun. That's pretty badass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Irina, thank you so much for taking us on this trip here today.
You're welcome.
It's delightful to hear about what you've created, what you found for yourself, the adventure you've had, the people you've met, the service that you've been able to bring to people, that needed it, and your generosity in sharing it with all of us right now.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Because I suspect there's a few people that have listened to this and they're thinking, maybe I could do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope they do, because that really is the main reason I wanted to show up today and talk about it, because it would have changed my life completely if I had started it when I graduated, and it could help a whole lot of other people get that clinical experience they're hungry for, that they're concerned might take a year to establish. And you see different things in different small towns as well. When people don't have the same medical services, they're willing to try something different that they might not otherwise think of doing if they're in a big city. So it's so rewarding that's what I'm hoping for, is that people will really give this a thought. And that's also why I made that PDF, a little handbook about it, because that kind of lays it all out for people. It's like, here's all the stuff you have to think about and face and consider, and here's how to start. So yeah, if we can get more people doing this so that, that many more acupuncturists are successful right away in their practice, then that just means that Chinese medicine is going to proliferate even more. That's what we want.
I love it and appreciate your contribution. I have a copy of that PDF that you sent me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make sure there's a link to it up on the website.
Perfect.
You realize people are going to be looking for you and they're going to have questions for you now.
Yeah, that's great. I welcome them to call. They can email if they want, but calling is way better. So just call. Yeah.
Okay. So I can put your contact information on the website.
It's all over the PDF too.
It's all over the PDF. That's really generous.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Let's go start a revolution. Thanks for joining me today.
Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome.
Wow. Talk about an entrepreneurial take on serving an unusual population. I loved hearing how Irina found opportunity where most people would only see uncertainty. How she didn't wait for the perfect clinic or the right time. She followed a hunch and built something remarkable. Her traveling practice brings acupuncture to places where it's rarely available, and in doing so, she built deep connections and a thriving livelihood. It was also striking how tuned in she's become to the patterns that arise in different environments, how the body responds to lifestyle, geography, even small-town culture. Irina's approach is hands-on and deeply observational. Her use of palpation, cupping, and simplicity is a reminder that effective medicine doesn't have to be elaborate, but it does require being intentional. And maybe most of all, I appreciated her mindset that success isn't about getting everything right from the start, but about staying curious, making small bets, and letting your practice grow alongside your life. Irina's story, it's a great reminder that sometimes the road less traveled, literally, is the one where you find the most meaning, especially if it's the road and the journey that you're called to. And if you have some interest in doing this kind of work, maybe doing a little circuit riding yourself, being a peripatetic acupuncturist, there's some terrific information over on the show notes that Irina has put together for any of you who might be interested in doing this kind of work. Go check it out. Well, here we are at the end of this episode. If you've listened up to this point, you're either a rabid fan of Qiological or the forward button on your podcast player stopped working. If you are indeed a fan of the podcast, you can help us to bring new episodes to our community of practitioners by supporting us with a membership or a one-time contribution. Details, of course, are on the website. That's it for today, friends. Join us again next Tuesday for another thoughtful episode of Qiological.